Hello, everyone. It's your old friends and nerds of us. Myself, Jonathan, and Jerry Soul back again for another episode of Best of All Worlds. And we have reached over the halfway mark, Jerry, of our mini arc of conspiracies and
Mhm.
incidents. And it's had everything so far. It's had chest bursters, it's had Seven of Nine turning weird, Jeffrey Combs being
Oh,
himself,
being Jeffrey Combs.
being
Oh,
Jeffrey
yes.
Combs, yeah. But we are like, and again, we haven't even touched our main event yet, which we will get to in due course. But I suppose we would be remiss if we didn't appreciate the classics, Jerry, in this
Hmm.
mini arc. And we are indeed doing that because we've done Enterprise, we've done Voyager, we've done a lot of Next Generation as our I suppose our standards, our calibration, if you like. So let's jump into the OG, the original series of Star Trek. Jerry, so you
Yes,
have a bit of a confession to make here.
I do. I do. Being a Star Trek fan, obviously I was born in 1984. So obviously I wasn't around when the first series came out. But I got into Star Trek because of the Next Generation, and then of course from the original films.
Mm,
But I have never ever watched the original Star Trek series. Never. So this,
mm,
for me, this will be the first time I ever see this episode, and it'll be the
yes.
first time actually watching an original series episode. And
Yeah.
I am a huge Star Trek fan, and I have been literally all my life. So for me not to have seen this is it's akin to blasphemy. It
A
really
little
is.
bit.
I think so.
A little bit. I think the difference though, granted, I have watched the original series for kind of like contrast and perspective more than anything else, thinking, yes, this is the 1960s. They tried. Like it's certainly a very mixed bag. It's certainly very much a show of its time. Not from a kind of a cultural sense, because it is actually quite important culturally for a few reasons, but it's also the actual episodic format of it, where like you will have much like the kind of like I kind of see it like very much like early Next Generation, early DS9, where some episodes are fucking hits, but a lot of them can be really bad, big misses.
Yeah.
And then there's some that are just objectively terrible. We have to do a mini arc of really bad episodes because we want to find the worst one. But that's for another time. But I did go for this one on myself because, as I said, I did want to get like a nice spread of Star Trek shows in this. So I thought this one was actually quite good because it's surprisingly a lot of political intrigue for an
Mhm.
original series show because it doesn't do episodes like this. It does a lot of like Planet of the Day, Alien of the Day type stories, or just where everyone suddenly turns horny or weird for some reason, or Kirk just overacts because that's kind of what he does. Um, but this
Uh,
one has a lot of kind of like real life allegories to it, because again, bear in mind the time this was set in, like there was a lot of international tension. There was a lot of like fingers hovering over big red buttons, and I think particularly in this episode, we'll see it because there is a bit of carryover then into the Next Generation as a result, but obviously not to the same extent. So I suppose we better stop talking about it. We're going to watch the Enterprise incident, which
yes.
is a series three of the original series. Yes, I know we're doing series three. I'm as shocked as you are, considering the episode before this was Spock's brain. So it should tell you the exact quality that we're dealing with here in season three. So fair to say, when we may not touch season three after this. So this could be a one and done in that sense. But Jerry, are you ready to start the Enterprise incident?
I am ready to rock.
Are you ready to get incidenty with the Enterprise? Let's do it. So, counting down from three, two, one, engage. That was my Captain Kirk impression. If anyone didn't notice.
Wherever you say, Jonathan.
So already a hot start. That's McCoy doing the intro, not Kirk.
Yeah.
So as you can see, there's like this is already a very different episode because Kirk is kind of an asshole here. When normally in this show he's been the very kind of stoic, idealist Star Trek captain.
Right, because I thought he was just a dick in every episode, but okay.
He has his moments, but it's because they didn't know what to do with the character. Like they did everything with him. They threw like nothing but stuff at him at Kirk. You know he's be turned bad when he says execute.
Yeah. You can see obviously because I have seen a little bit of Star Trek in the past, yes. But the graphics are so much better.
Yeah, they have done a good bit to update them. I do like the actual set here. Like genuinely,
it's a great set. It is a great set.
It's so claustrophobic as well. Like it actually feels like a submarine like bridge, you know, which obviously was based on, but. Another kind of fun little game I'm setting up here when I'm watching these episodes is to try and find James Doohan's missing finger. Because he does so well to hide it.
Oh, there you go.
It isn't though. That was to save money. And now this is the actual bird of prey, which we will talk about in the shipyards later on. They do overuse this trumpet a lot, but it actually quite works here. Like literally Kirk has walked them into a trap of Romulans. Like what the fuck is going on? It immediately asks
stupid fucking Kirk.
Honestly. And like I said, the thing about this is like it's immediately framed like this is the weirdest possible thing for Kirk to do. Because it is. Like no one does this. There's a reason you don't cross the neutral zone.
They have to say the graphics are nice and clean, in fairness.
Very polished, yeah. They look really well now. You notice them more in this than you would do in the Next Generation, where it's only like a bit of a touch-up. But definitely in the original series, it looks so good.
I love that music, though.
It is great music, isn't it? It's also the font. I love the font. I don't know what it is. It's just so sharp and clean. So yeah, like I said, like again, we mentioned there, like the original series is a very hit and miss show, just generally. But sometimes when they're really well written episodes, you remember them, and this is one I remember. Let's see if it holds up, though. It's a crucial part. That is also
okay. So the Romulan D7s had the bird underneath as well. Okay.
Yes, exactly. I think that's how they made the distinction, where like the Romulans actually had the winged eagle on it, because they're Roman, of course.
Signal from the Romulan vessel. Put it on the radio and screen, Lieutenant, and complete that message to Starfleet Command. You have been identified as the Starship Enterprise. Captain James T. Kirk, last known to be in command. Your information is correct. This is Captain Kirk.
It's funny they don't actually make the link between the Vulcans and Romulans in this show. Now, maybe I think it's alluded to in this episode here, but previously, because the Romulans do appear before this, and there's no mention of it whatsoever. It's just like a similar makeup thing.
Well, they would have destroyed us by now.
Jesus, the makeup is so thick.
Yeah.
Would be a great prize.
And it's not too bad either in this show. Like I think it's because the lighting quite saves it.
Who's that beside you? My first officer, Commander Spock.
Sorry, my anti-Vulcan detector has gone off. Let me just switch that off.
Yes, Commander.
See, the Romulans invented airboats before anyone else did.
You understand that Starfleet Command has been advised of the situation. The subspace message will take 3 weeks to reach Starfleet. The decision is yours, Captain. Or not. The sign of the ship is the same.
So as you can see, it's already well poised to start off. Because again, I love about the fact is like there's literally no reason why Kirk has done this yet. It's not been revealed yet.
The Romulans have developed a cloaking device, which renders our tracking sensors useless. If so, the Romulans could attack the Federation territory before we do that with air, before a vessel or a planet could even begin to get the defenses up. They caught us right now. Well, that's a pretty observation, Mr. Scott. Do you have any other helpful opinions? Oh, not got many choices. We have 3. We can fight. Or we can destroy the Enterprise ourselves and keep it around.
Again, the big question here is, Kirk, why are you doing this? You brought us here.
Opinions. If the Enterprise is taken by the Romulans, they'll know everything there is to know about a starship. We have not crossed the neutral zone. On your order, you would not now leave our.
Oh, here you go.
Again, I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but I love the fact that Kirk's hair is just a little bit tasseled.
Yeah.
It's not clean. It's a little bit frazzled.
It's ever so slightly frazzled, and then the makeup as well is it is a bit different. It's a bit.
It looks
darker.
a bit darker, is what I would say. Like, yeah.
Romulan vessel is signaling against it.
On the screen. Commander wishes to see you and your first officer aboard this vessel. It is felt this matter requires discussion. Why should we walk right into your hand? But my officers will beam aboard your vessel, Mrs. James, while you are here. What guarantee do we have that they'll beam aboard our ship once we're on yours? Granted, we do not easily trust each other, Captain. But you are the ones who violated our territory.
Again, the Romulans are in the right here so far.
Mm-hmm.
As things stand, Kirk is fucked up here, but must be a reason for it.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you there. It's the neutral zone. Neither of them are supposed to be in it.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
One final order, Engineer Scott. If we do not return, the Enterprise must not be taken. The fight, if necessary.
I think this is also one of the rare episodes where Scotty's in command. And again, Jerry, you might not know from watching it. When Scotty's in command, he gets his fucking balls out on the table. There's no one taking his spot. Like, he is fucking great at it. And there you go. That's what the Romulans look like. Look at him already. He's like, guys, lads. I'll kind of fucking
fuck you, lads. Very strange how they used the same. Like, obviously, it was a budget thing, but the same ships for the Romulans. I always wondered why. Now I know.
Yeah, I think that the reasoning is that, like, basically the Romulans stole the Klingon design off them, basically. I think that's the way they reasoned it.
Yeah.
But we have an important matter to discuss. And for superficial courtesies, one overture to that discussion. You are the first officer.
That's what it says on my name tag.
First with the captain. You may wait outside.
It seems obviously the main difference between original Romulans and the Romulans you would see in Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and whatnot is the brow, the forehead makeup that they have in that other series or those other series.
Yeah. Like, yeah, in fairness, it is a very subtle change from that to this. It's not like the Klingons where they completely overhauled the design.
Yeah.
In a good way, by the way.
Saying instrument failure has rapid correction. But unnoticed until you are well past the neutral zone.
Accidents can happen. Come on, back up malfunction. We were due for an overhaul 2 months ago.
In other words, the GPS is wrong. Don't you hate it when your sat nav brings you into a ravine called the neutral zone?
We were not spying, Commander.
Your language has always been most difficult. Perhaps you have another word.
Shithousery is what I would call it.
Shit out.
Vessel ventured far into Federation without good explanation. Open a starbase command.
I will say Shatner is very good at being intense. It's definitely his one good emotion. Like,
But, I mean,
I understand.
I must admit, some surprise on seeing you, Spock.
oh,
You were not aware of Vulcan's appointment.
Starfleet is not in the habit of informing Romulans of its ship's personnel.
Quite so. Yet there are certain ships, certain officers that relate to us.
oh,
The situation appears most interesting.
Spock, your special interest.
It's a Vulcan. A forebear
there we go.
with the same roots.
That is a pretty massive bit of backstory there for Romulans and Vulcans.
The Vulcans.
This is where you realize that they're actually related.
Yes, this is the episode where they explain it. Explain why they have a similar makeup. They actually give you a reason for it. It's not just because of like
There's a
cheapness.
well-known saying, or is it a myth, that Vulcans are incapable of lying?
No myth.
Then tell me truthfully now. By your honor as a Vulcan,
Hmm.
what was your mission?
I reserve the privilege of speaking only when it will not violate my honor as a
It's unworthy of a Vulcan to resort to subterfuge.
that is unworthy of a Romulan. It's not a lie to keep the truth to oneself.
Mhm.
Then there is a truth here that remains unspoken.
You've been told everything. There's nothing else to say.
It's Mr. Spock. Spoken truth.
I do love the little exchanges here. The camera.
It's like I'm trying to figure out like why is he acting weird?
Exactly. Yeah.
Order of the Federation.
We've been all through that, Commander.
There's no force that I can use. Vulcan. Speak. There are Romulan methods completely effective against humans.
Which is true.
Human weakness.
We see it a lot in the next generation.
We would not resort to them, Commander. They would prove ineffective against the captain.
Then they will leave him dead. Or what might be worse. But I will know your unspoken truths.
Rand, there's nothing to say. I cannot allow the captain to be further destroyed. The chain of command has worn heavily upon it. Kirk is a highly sensitive and emotional person.
Whoa!
Ooh.
Rational decision.
Yeah.
No secrets. Commander's suspicion that Starfleet ordered the Enterprise into the neutral zone is unacceptable. Our rapid capture demonstrates his foolhardy. The Enterprise and the Federation. I say now, and for the record, Captain Kirk ordered the Enterprise across the
Hot
neutral zone
fucking damn.
and was craving for glory.
Wow.
Yeah.
He is not sane.
Yeah, I'm docking a point for that.
This is actually really good.
Yeah, right? Isn't it such a pleasant surprise?
Yeah.
Speaking to you from the Romulan flagship. The USS Enterprise under command of Captain James T. Kirk is formally charged with espionage. The testimony of
I love this scene, by the way. This is Commander Scott at his finest. Because you often forget he is third in command after Spock. There's the computer.
Yeah. And number one.
Indeed. We shall see both of them very soon, hopefully, next year.
Solely responsible. Since the crew had no choice but to obey orders, the crew will not be held responsible. Therefore, I am ordering Engineer Scott, presently in command of the Enterprise, follow the Romulan flagship to our home base.
Look at the scowl on his face, like he is ready for this. He is the kind of war for this situation, going like, I fancy a scrap, lads.
But he's looking at going, I took fucking 50 million bullets during World War II for this shit.
Fuck that.
Mr. Scott, and you are tied in.
This is Lieutenant Commander Scott. The Enterprise takes no orders. The orders of Captain Kirk. Stay right here until we return. Test the board. The bits along with as many of you.
Make a brave noise.
What a man.
There are ways to convince you of your errors.
You hear that, you coward? You betrayed everything of value you ever knew. You hear the sound of human integrity?
Take him to the security.
What a line that is, by the way. So what's your thoughts so far, Jerry? It's quite intriguing, isn't it?
It is quite good, but I'm seeing a swerve coming. I am seeing a swerve coming, and I really want to know what the swerve is.
Yes. I do like, again, I'm giving great points to the writing here because it's setting up things really, really well.
Yeah.
Because you know from the outside, this is a very strange episode. Everything's just upside down.
Now, I'm only realizing something here now. And am I right by this?
Yeah.
Is Spock the only alien on the Enterprise?
At this present in time, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a very human ship, which is very surprising.
Possibly. But you are supporting.
Now, granted, obviously in like the Discovery series, they do like amend that a good bit, but as far as we know from this, it is a very human ship.
Mm.
Why do you not command?
I desire a ship of my own.
Or is it that no one has offered you a Vulcan? That opportunity.
Which at this point, I don't think anyone is a Vulcan captain yet
Mm.
in Starfleet.
Someone with your capabilities and accomplishments, opportunities are made and will be. I will see to that. You will stop looking on the Federation as the whole universe. It is not,
Thought has occasionally crossed my mind.
Mm-hmm.
You must have your own ship.
Shall we speak plainly?
Of course.
I do love that, like, you know, it's a Romulans because they have leather seats.
Mm.
To broaden the scope of my powers greatly. Equal opportunities for you.
So now he's seeing if Spock takes to the.
Will he take the bait?
Does he take the bait? Exactly.
But I just feel like there's something else. There's something else going on here with I'm looking at it going like he needed to get onto that ship or something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The fact that both of them are on the ship.
Boy, here.
Doctor, you must beam aboard the Romulan flagship immediately. There's been an injury.
I don't make house calls.
I love that McCoy is such a dickhead, but oh man.
Yeah.
He's like your racist uncle. You have to keep him around, but still.
This was the 60s, in fairness.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll recover, but you'll need further attention. Inform your superior.
Ooh, shaky cam. It's a very, very small thing. Again, granted the budget. I do love that they have different communicators.
Yeah.
It's just such a small fucking thing, but it works.
Not very hygienic though, because that guy just went straight to a pad that anybody could use. I'm like, just stick it in my ear here.
Yeah, to be fair.
Indeed. I'd imagine that's where they got Teok saying indeed in the Stargate series from Spock, because the way
I agree with that, actually, because there's a lot of Spock in Teal'c. Like, he's definitely the Spock of that team. Although, to be fair, like, actually, you could actually say most of the Stargate team are analogs. Like, O'Neill is Kirk.
Definitely.
You'd probably say what?
Well,
like
Kirk, but better.
Kirk or better, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because I fucking love O'Neill. I love O'Neill.
It's a big red door. I kind of like that, to be fair. It's just like, this is the red door of Romulans. Show me your ears. You pass. Again, they also do a lot of things. They often do this a lot in the original series, but if they want to have like someone involved romantically, they have the soft lighting on them to make them look even prettier. They do that a lot. It's a very common theme.
It's just a swipe. Yeah, that's how we look it.
Again, but I like it's different. It's not the case of like and the fact that it's clearly like a force field then in that door. It's very different. He's what we would call a rebel yell back in 20th century. Or as the Irish used to call them, a mad lad.
He believes the captain had no authority.
He just needs to take to his bed for a week.
Exactly. Bed rest. That's how you solve a mental illness. Bed rest.
Yes, it's possible.
Doctor has now confirmed your testimony as to the mental state of your captain. He was and is unfit to continue in command of the Enterprise. That duty has now fallen on you. Are you ready to exercise that function?
I am ready. I don't believe it. There's no price you could pay that would make him so on. Matter is not open for discussion, Doctor. What do you mean the matter's not open for discussion?
That's enough, Doctor. Your duty is to save.
Yeah, I do like that Kirk is literally playing along going, so tired. I'm so tired.
Need one more pint.
He is like, lads, come on. I can't tell if this is deliberately bad or it's part of the act. I don't know.
God, okay, that was terrible.
Yeah.
I was unprepared for his attack. Instinctively, he death grip. Instincts still good, Mr. Spock. Captain's dead.
Na. He's okay with it.
Jesus.
So, Captain Kirk's dead. I think you see why people hated season 3.
Yeah.
Now, what's for Kirk?
Sure. Okay, like just like something definitely going on, but I can't just put my finger. I can't put my finger on it. He's clearly not fucking dead. Like. Oh.
Gave him a nerve pinch to simulate that.
He's the traitor. You know that all the time.
I didn't know it until I beamed aboard the Romulan ship. Jim and Spock were operating on a Federation order.
Now we know.
Fucking knew it. I fucking knew it.
Shenanigans at play. It's a conspiracy. It's both an incident and a conspiracy.
Cheeky little smiley on you, bollocks you.
Mm-hmm.
My neck feels like it's been twisted off. Balkan death grip for you. There's such thing as a Balkan death grip. But the Romulans don't know that. They're a fool to doctor. Good chance they didn't start in our town.
Love
As
it.
far as the rest of the crew is concerned, I'm still dead.
I just noticed the actual special badges for Chapel there.
This whole masquerade was about.
Yeah.
Shit.
Surprise on the Federation.
Every department has a different badge.
Yeah. I don't know why I never copped on until now.
You would be the one to blame. Bones, I want you to prepare for surgery. What for?
Oh, it's definitely your woman.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe I'm bridging at a time like this. We're surrounded by enemy vessels ready to attack.
Again, I love Scott. He's so wound up about this. You can tell he's clearly out of the loop.
Scott, please. Oh, doctor. Better be important. Spot out. All right, doctor. What's so urgent?
You thought it was for the woman.
Oh,
Now, to my knowledge, that's the first time they've done a masquerade like this.
Look like the devil himself, but as long as you're alive, what's it all about? Are those Romulan officers to the mothership? They're in the brig, sir. I'll need a Romulan uniform.
Scotty, the dirty old bollock stripping now. Poor
Jesus.
Romulans.
That's great. Oh, look at that! Look at that nice, fresh Romulan fruit.
Oh, some nice fresh canapes.
Mm.
I hope they do your life.
Vulcan canapes as well.
I'm very flattered, Commander. There's no doubt. We've seen aboard you.
Bear in mind, like we see Vulcanus later on. There's fuck all fruit on that planet.
Very powerful.
There's some Romulan ale for the first time, if I'm not mistaken. I am curious to see what it's meant to taste like. I believe it's meant to be just like, like a whiskey taste.
If that's right, if it's supposed to be whiskey taste, there's a fucking lot of it in that glass. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, it's supposed to be really fucking strong. I think, like, in terms of alcohol, like, I think Canar is supposed to be stronger than Romulan. No, Romulan ale is the strongest because Worf says it should be banned in the movie. And yeah, I think Canar is slightly weaker.
Mr. Spock hasn't set the proper coordinates yet. Can't be helped, Scotty. You're taking it off, Jim. Just don't put me inside a bomb yet.
That's all I ask. I do like the Romulan uniform. It is like
That's nice. I've always liked all the Romulan uniforms, even the
Yeah.
ones in Next Generation. I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no. I have disaffected an escape from the Federation vessel. I have important information for Sub-Commander Paul. Where is he? He's in Control Central, Secretary. I shall remember to mention your alert to stuff. Return to you. Thank you.
Again, another nice little touch is that they do keep the Roman structure.
Yeah.
Because again, we like in the second season, we had an actual like Roman Empire like episode, like an alternate Earth. So the inspiration is very clear.
I like the square glasses.
Yeah, they're like massive cuvettes.
Oh.
You have nothing.
Like I'm kind of jealous of them, to be fair, because every time I have to hold a cuvette, they're made of quartz and they're really fucking delicate.
I want some of them.
Yeah.
There's actually there's a glass in Deep Space Nine when Odo is a solid and he's drinking a beer in Quarks and he pours the beer into the glass. I'm like, I really want one of those glasses.
I want one of the Klingon tankers.
Oh yeah.
Romulan women are not like Vulcan females. They're not complicated to your logic.
So one thing I like about this is that it's setting up that the Romulans are the emotional compared to the rational.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do see that a little bit in, there is an episode called Let This Be Your Last Battlefield, where we have Mark Leonard playing one of the first Romulans. And you don't quite see that there because he's a very stoic type. But here you actually get the Romulans fleshed out a little bit, just as a comparison between the Vulcans and Romulans.
I do like how Enterprise explains that they were the same, but then there was the split when one wanted to be study logic and the others didn't, and that's where they become Romulans and Vulcans.
It was kind of like an allegory between the Romulans and Remus, like Romulus and Remus, you know, that part of the mythology. But I suppose like Nemesis kind of puts a kibosh to that in a sense. But yeah, like definitely a lot of Roman Greek mythology going on with both these races, which is very good. It's very clear to see.
Small party of Romulans with the Enterprise. They will take your rightful place. And you will lead the ship to a Romulan port. My friends inside.
Again, we also kind of get the light slit there as well to focus on the eyes. And another very common trope at the time.
I was beginning to wonder.
It's Derek.
John.
Steve.
How beautiful. It's so incongruous. Spoken by a soldier.
Give me a moment. Sojo will transform herself into a woman.
Again, I like that line. It's all part of the subterfuge.
Oh, disgraceful.
Captain Kirk. Captain, are you prepared to come over? I'm already on board, Spock. Do you have the information? Yes, Captain. Cloaking device is in an area near the commander's quarters. It is closely guarded and off limits to all but authorized personnel. What is your present location? Commander Tau. Transmission from within our vessel. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Commander.
Oh.
I must know the source. I'll get the cloaking device.
Again, they kind of missed a trick there by not having actual Romulan communicator there to complete it.
That was fucking very quick.
That was a quick change. A very 70s dress there, I think it's fair to say. Very 60s dress. And as I recall, we don't actually see any other Romulans dressed this way. They're all very kind of like what's the word? Kind of very like militaristic dress. Again, I might like throw this in as well. You might argue this is the start of Spock's trying to reunify both Romulans and Vulcans.
Someone try to get in there. I must see your authorization.
Terrible.
What the fuck happened
Smash
there?
cut, smash cut.
Hard to believe. I can be so moved.
Do you like how I'm holding this imaginary cigarette over your mouth? How does it make you feel?
Emotionally. I know it is illogical.
It's not. Ask some question. What we truly feel. Accept what is happening between us. Even as I do. Not now.
We have intercepted an alien transmission.
It says that Manchester United lost. Does that mean anything to you?
Helping device. Bring it.
Uh-huh. Now again, this is a little swerve, isn't it? The fact that Spock was able to show it.
Who are you? What are you doing in here? As an enemy spy aboard, you'll be after the cloaking device.
I don't know.
Drop your weapon.
That was very clearly plastic. Nice.
Oh my god.
At least there was no stunt double involved.
Yeah.
That is a start.
But you found the cloaking device.
Which is apparently just a big orb.
Come on, they have to be heavier than
He's
that
gonna
for
stick it in his
fuck's sake.
pocket.
Boom.
Nice.
And they got the cloaking device.
They got the cloaking device. Yes.
Search all decks.
Profitless about it. I do not believe we'll find it.
Why would you do this?
First officer of the Enterprise.
Oh.
Oh, bitch.
Ouch. There are some really great lines in this episode, I have to say.
Your present form of execution.
It's well poised, isn't it? Because the difference is now Spock has very clearly got her entranced, so she doesn't want to get him killed either.
Yeah.
Romulan's cloaking device and get it working. I hope Mr. Spock can buy us the time we need.
Hey.
Report was premature. What happened? We'll discuss it later. Mr. Sulu laid a course for home. Mr. Chekhov, take the sensor. Mr. Spock is still aboard the Romulan flagship. I want his body readings pinpointed and isolated. That was not a request, gentlemen.
Oh, you're here too. As you can see, he's totally back to normal.
Return to your stations, Sub-Commander. Boarding action on the Enterprise will begin with my command. If they resist, destroy her.
Now, of course, I believe the commander here is also going to be in trouble for having something stolen off her ship.
Yeah.
The sentence will be carried out immediately after the charges. Understand? The right is granted.
I shall not require much time. No more than 20 minutes, I should say.
It should take less time than that to find your ally.
I love that how stoic Spock is going. Yeah, I think about 20 minutes before I get killed. Yeah, I think that's enough. I'm happy with that. 20 minutes. Yeah, that's good. Just have to write a few letters. That's all. If anything should happen, please tell my wife hello.
My crime is sabotage. I freely admit my guilt.
And now there's a bit of a race against time. Also, again, the key thing here is he said 20 minutes. So Scotty has 15 to install the cloaking device. Just a clever little wrinkle there.
The oath I swore as a Starfleet officer is both specific and binding. As long as I wear the uniform, my duty is to protect the security of the Federation.
And now for our 20-minute speech of self-flagellation by me, Lieutenant Commander Spock. Again, I wanted like the Romulan ones to be just going like, oh, come on, the fuck.
There is no regulation regarding the content of my statement.
Yeah.
May I continue?
Very well. Your 20 minutes is almost up.
There's only one Vulcan aboard that ship. You should be easy enough to engage.
Plus that, and I can't get this microscope to work.
Coordinates the transporter along double. Have them prepare to beam aboard in my signal. Put the device installed, but bless me if I know whether it's going to work. Transport the room has the coordinates and is ready for beam. Transporter room. Walk aboard. Beyond the historic tradition.
Oh.
Oh dear.
Oh yes. Whoosh.
What's the matter? The enemy vessel is moving away at extreme speed, sir. Look, all vessels. Bring main batteries to bear out here.
Mm-hmm.
Open a channel to the Romulan vessel. Establish two-way visual contact.
Uh-huh.
We have you under our weapons enterprise. You cannot escape. This is Captain Kirk. Hold your fire. We have your.
That was very dramatic.
Helmsman, plane speed. Weapons out. Stand by to fire main batteries as soon as we reach optimum range.
I do think he's more like on like a news desk going like, today at 9.
Distance from the Romulan vessel, 150,000 miles. Stand by, stations.
Uh-huh.
150,000 kilometers. I think he might be a bit wrong there.
Yeah. It's, off by a factor of 10.
Firing at us within the next 12.7 seconds.
Again, you can tell that he didn't quite have the dimensions right at this point in canon. It's a big fucking ball, Captain. I don't know what to do with it. I can't tell to kick it or fucking throw it.
Throw
No, it worked.
Commence flight. Have the cloaking device. Quickly. Compute enemy course from last position and open flight. Yes, sir.
Nice. Nicely done, lads.
Ha.
Hmm.
Sensors cannot track the vessel.
That seems like a flaw, lads, to be honest.
Just a tad.
Just a bit, like, you know, throwing in a loose tacky on thereabouts or something.
Nearest Federation outpost.
You are very generous, Captain. If I may be taken to your brig, I will take my place as your prisoner.
Clark will have the honor of escorting you to your port.
Like, what's a little spy game among friends? Which is one floor.
It is regrettable that you were made an unwilling passenger. Not intentional. All the Federation wanted was the cloaking device.
No offense.
Federation. And what did you do?
Was my only interest. I boarded you a vessel.
That's exactly all you came away with.
You underestimate yourself, Commander.
This is obviously back before the treaty
Realize that
Yes.
between the Romulans and the Federation that made the Federation give up cloaking device.
Exactly.
Because arguably they made better cloaking devices than the Romulans.
Supposedly so, yeah. As we saw with the Defiant, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it was always and of course the Pegasus as well, actually.
Yeah, the Pegasus. That's where I was going with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
ship that was completely undetectable because the sensors would just go right through it.
Exactly, yeah.
it was your choice.
It's possible. You would not respect any other.
Your secret.
Oh. Again, I think that's where the seed is planted for reunification.
Mm.
I think, like, Spock realizes there is more to the Romulans than we know.
Shouting's over up there. I'd like for you to report to sick bay. What for? Well, you're in surgery. I'm trying to bob your ears. Please don't. Somehow they do not look aesthetically agreeable.
And now we go for the classic sitcom sign off.
Well, are you coming, Jim, or do you want to go through life looking like your first officer?
I'm on my way.
How very racist of you, McCoy.
Yeah, I knew we'd get an eyebrow raise there.
Always. There's always an eyebrow raise. So there you go. For a 50-minute episode, that was a very nice watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I have to
there you
say
go.
now, I'm pleasantly surprised.
Hmm.
That was better than I thought it would be, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, like the way I kind of look at it is that there's a surprising amount of commentary on this because, like I said, around the time this was the height of USSR tensions, you know.
Mm.
So I think it's quite good that they actually did create a story to suit that, you know, that there is a bit of subterfuge, there is a bit of espionage, because, like, again, this is the height of the Cold War. There's spies trading left, right, and center, you know. So intel is going across from wall to wall, if you like, between the two states. So, like, defections and like little like gambits like this are commonplace between those two nations. So why not put it into Star Trek? You know, if anything, it's kind of more of a waste opportunity. Didn't do it more because I don't think they actually realized how effective that is. Of course, this is still the start of science fiction. So you weren't to know that throwing in those kind of like real life allegories work. But like as we saw there from that episode, which we both very much enjoyed, it works.
Yeah, it really
very
did.
much fucking works. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. So there isn't much in terms of our two regular segments that we do before we get into our review. We have two ships to talk about in the shipyards, first off. So again, because this is our first ever Enterprise original series episode, let's talk about the original Enterprise.
Yes.
So what we'll do is, I think it's fair to say, we will always have like a distinction between this Star Trek Enterprise and the one that we see in the movies. You know, so I think for Shipyard alone, we might kind of call that one, the movie one, the Enterprise A, because that is essentially what it gets referred to as. But obviously this one is the what's known as a Constitution class. Very iconic, very memorable. It goes through a few owners before we get to Kirk. Of course, we hear of Captain Pike beforehand, which is in the pilot. But before then, it was Captain Robert April, who we see a little bit of in the animated series, but overall very little of, even though he's supposed to be quite an iconic captain. As we said, we see a lot of it in Discovery now as well, with Pike in charge. But overall, it's kind of always seen as Kirk's ship, even though he's actually not in charge of it for that long, ironically enough. So what's your thoughts on the original Enterprise? Obviously, it inspires a lot more going forward.
Well, yeah, you see, it is the original ship. It's the original spaceship from that kind of started off science fiction in a way. It's a nice design. Obviously, it is a ship from the 60s, and there's no mistaking that. But it's a good design. I've always liked the Bussard collectors on the nacelles on the original.
I do love them because they do look really science fiction.
Yeah, really, really cool looking. I think the design, it's always been kind of an iconic design. It's where every single Starfleet vessel stems from. It stems from that. So every single Starfleet vessel, with the exception of only a few in the last couple of years, really, have had saucer sections. They've had the secondary hull and then the nacelles. So whatever configuration they might have been, like you know, the main ships that you see from the original series and from the films are obviously the Constitution class, Miranda class, and the Excelsior class, and the Oberth class as well, and the Excelsior, and they all have nacelles, they all have deflectors, and they all have saucer sections. Now, they don't all have a secondary hull, with the exception, that's obviously the exception being the Miranda class, which was the Reliant in Wrath of Khan. But for it being the very first science fiction ship, I thought the design was really good. And you see that and you automatically think Star Trek, you automatically think Captain Kirk, and Spock. It's just a really, really, really nice design. Really, really good design.
Very different design as well, because I'm thinking, even looking at like the likes of, if you even compare to the shows at the time, but like say your Buck Rogers and so forth, like they always kind of go for rockets, they go for very small spaceships, whereas in Star Trek they made a very conscious effort to make this feel like I don't want to say submarine, but they're kind of more like a cruiser, like an actual, like a naval ship in a sense, and more like not necessarily a combative ship either. Like it's kind of like almost like a cruise liner, as the Enterprise D is described. This is kind of like working towards that. It's a case of like there's enough on the ship to, in theory, like host a crew, host a regular kind of like contingent of aliens and like different stories each episode. So the general like idea is still in its infancy here. And again, because of budgets and because of just not knowing how much you're capable of with this, you don't see a lot of that on the Enterprise. You see more or less the same type of sets until there's something very bespoke for an episode. But definitely the idea is there to have the ship just suddenly fly along and go, oh, we found this place, let's see what happens here. And in a sense, it serves a lot better than having just like basically a man in a rocket, if you know what I mean. It definitely feels like it's more of a living place, especially when they do kind of like a lot of corridor shots. You see a lot of people just like bumbling around doing their jobs and shit. It's very different, and I do like that. They make that distinction. A little bit of interesting information. Again, I was talking about the 3 captains that were in charge of the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Fun fact: this is not canon, by the way, or not official canon. So, according to a computer display that was created by the Star Trek Enterprise crew, it was never used on screen. Jonathan Archer was present at the Enterprise's launch, and he died the next day because he was the president of the Federation at the time. So he lives to be a very old man, in a sense. I think Archer would die, if this canon is correct, at about 110 or 111, whatever it is. Now, again,
with them having, you know, Vulcan technology and Andorian stuff, and their lifespans have nearly been doubled, or at least 1.5 times the normal lifespan of a human.
I think humans normally go 110, 120 in the future.
I know there's something, I can't remember where, I can't remember what it's in, but there's something about, and this is canon, about Captain Archer's dog. Oh, sorry, but it's about Admiral Archer's dog. There's something in one of the series, and they discuss Admiral Archer's dog or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, he definitely lived for a long time. Anyway, whether Portos lived a long time with him, I'm not too sure. But it was something to do. There was an episode in one particular series where Admiral Archer is mentioned, and they mentioned the year as well. So he definitely lives a lot longer than a normal human would.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think even Picard in his series is meant to be around 90, 95. Because that does kind of line up with why he was. I think like obviously like Patrick Stewart himself is like in his 80s, so I think Picard was always 10 years older of him anyway. So I think people have kind of approximated like that anyway. But yeah, like I said, it's an absolutely iconic ship. Like there's no doubt about that. And as you said, there's like so many, especially with Discovery and now Strange New Worlds coming along. This actual like the depth of this ship is now going to even get bigger. And again, the story is not really told because we've heard of like other people now involved with Strange New Worlds, with Kirk, with Pike in charge, and Spock. So that's a new chapter of that ship now being written. So in a sense, it's not done yet. So we'll be interested to see how that goes. And we kind of cut it off there in terms of like that's the original series, because then obviously the refit happens in the movies, and we're going to treat it as a different ship just for kind of convenience sake. So in terms of the shipyard itself, where would you rank the original Enterprise? We have ensign, lowest rank, lieutenant, commander, captain, or admiral.
Now, the Enterprise D, I'm assuming I
Enterprise D is still top tier,
and I'm assuming I gave that admiral.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The original Enterprise is, for me, it's going to be captain.
Yeah, I'm kind of iffy on it, because I'll tell you why. Because in my mind, like if I'm comparing the two, I want Enterprise A instead of this one, you know, kind of way. Because I love the way that ship looks in particular. It just looks so clean and so very, I don't know, ship of its time type design mentality, if you know what I mean. But I could negotiate captain with you, I think. You know, because I was thinking commander myself, or lieutenant, thinking of the Enterprise A being a scale up to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we actually rest in on commander in that sense. Because I was kind of going for like a tier below that. So do you want rock paper scissors to see where the Enterprise goes?
No, I tell you what, we'll go with commander then. I'm happy enough to go with commander with that. Yeah.
So the original Enterprise is right smack bang in the middle with the Stargazer, the Marauder, Delta Flyer, Enterprise. It's a good class, to be fair. It's,
yeah, it really is. I just checked it there, and when it comes to Archer,
yes,
Admiral Archer's prized beagle is what it was called, but it was from the newer Star Trek, the first JJ Star Trek films, the very first Star Trek movie that he did, and it's mentioned by Scotty, who's Simon Pegg in that movie, that he was testing a new transporter on Admiral Archer's prize beagle, and he killed it. Yeah.
Classic Scotty.
So it just means that while just before the Enterprise was launched, Admiral Archer, or maybe President Archer, whatever at the time, he was still around. So yes, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Point proven. Yeah, that's Simon Pegg killing a dog. That's that doesn't speak volumes of the J.J. Abrams movie. I don't know what does. So another ship we're going to talk about is the original, I say original, Romulan Bird of Prey. Now, I say original because we do see a couple of iterations in the later series. So perhaps we might make a distinction in this case, maybe not, but it's the Bird of Prey. Now, we're not counting the D7 class. That's going to be a separate issue. So we might leave D7 for a Klingon episode because I think that's a reasonable shout. But the actual Bird of Prey, I think, does warrant investigation. So obviously, it's a very, very light cruiser, very much an attack ship in that sense. Quite a powerful ship in that sense. Its armament, according to this, is 2 disruptors, 1 plasma torpedo, and nuclear missiles as well. Because, it was the 60s. You have to have nuclear power somewhere.
Yeah.
And as you said, they have the kind of the eagle, if you like, the eagle pattern on the back or on the bottom of the ship, hence why it's the Bird of Prey. I do believe that's meant to be the distinction between the Romulan and Klingon designs, because as you mentioned, they more or less steal the designs from the Klingons.
Yeah.
Hence where they get their ships. But they didn't really adequately explain why until I think Enterprise, why that was the case. So we won't go there just yet. A very tidy ship all the same, but as you see from the original series, a very small ship. It's not designed for comfort. It's not designed for anything else. It's designed for maybe a couple of people around the console and firing torpedoes. That's what it's there for. So perhaps not one on comfort, but maybe tactically it's a better shout. So
it's definitely a nice design, and I do very much like the eagle underneath. I think that gives it a really cool look. But the fact that it's called a Bird of Prey, and it's got the Bird of Prey underneath it, so I really, really like that. What it kind of reminds me of is, especially with the bird of the eagle underneath, is that if you look closely at a Klingon Bird of Prey,
yes,
you can actually see that on the wings the design is actually of feathers, and it's very subtle, but you do see it.
Yeah, it's like the ridging of it. It's like the profile of the bottom. Yeah,
exactly. And I do think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I do like it's one of those ships that is a lot of ships in Star Trek are long and narrow, whereas this is wide.
Yes.
So it's a lot wider than most of the ships that you would see. Obviously, you've got the nice profile there. You've got the 2 nacelles on either side. I have to say though, I would have thought that it would have more of an armament than 2 disruptors. We'll discount the nuclear missiles, but 2 disruptors and a single plasma torpedo launcher. I would have assumed that it had more, but I suppose when you compare it to other ships, you've got so basically 3 weapons. A Klingon Bird of Prey would have the exact same, so it would have 2 disruptors and the I would imagine the D7 has more.
Oh, the D7 is like a fucking walking armory. So yeah.
So they've got forward and rear firing. Same with the Enterprise. The Enterprise would have more armaments as well.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a nice looking ship. You don't see enough of it. I remember as a kid when I was getting various different toys and getting Star Trek toys, there was micro machines. The micro machines came out with a line of Star Trek ships, and I still have them in the box in the attic. And one of them is a Romulan Bird of Prey, and it's the one that I kind of played with the most because I absolutely loved it. As a kid, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was brilliant, and and it's a really, really nice design. I think I do like the Romulan Bird of Prey.
Yeah, I think the way I look at it is because obviously we're talking about the actual the 23rd century Romulan Bird of Prey, and then eventually that does become in a sense the actual the big Romulan ship that we see in the Next Generation, the Derridex class, is almost 2 birds of prey just welded together with a big fucking hoot at the top of it.
The front of the Derridex is very eagle-like as well, because it's got that beak look to it. But you look at the original series and you look at the Romulan ships, and they were smaller and weaker than or smaller, maybe not weaker, but at least
more nimble is what I would say. Yeah. It's definitely more more inconspicuous is what I would say. Yeah.
But it's I didn't mean to say weaker. I mean, they would have been on par in terms of fighting against the likes of the Klingons and the Federation. So you see that, and you obviously the Romulans said to themselves, "Hold on a minute, we can do better than this. Let's bring out some big bastard ships." And then you get to the Derridex, which is bigger than a Galaxy class.
It's twice the size of a Galaxy ship.
Twice the size of Galaxy class. So a Derridex is, she's fucking huge. She's monstrous. Absolutely. Like you look at Federation ships, their battleship is very much a Galaxy class. So for you know, the Romulans and then obviously the Dominion to have these really big ships that could slice through anything. You know, we never really got. We always wanted, as a Next Generation fan, you always wanted to see the Enterprise go up against the Romulan warbird. You always wanted to see that, and you never really got to see it. We were so close, so close in the Defector when Tomalak is there with the two Romulan warbirds, and he's like going up against the Enterprise, and then all of a sudden Klingon birds of prey. Now they're the bigger versions of the bird of prey. I think they're Katinga class birds of prey. They're bigger.
Yeah.
They're bigger. The armaments are bigger as well. But that was the closest we got to the Romulans versus the Federation in terms of those ships. I always wanted to see it. There was a game that came out. It was a Next Generation game that came out, and the very first mission in it is the Enterprise going up against the Derridex, and the only way you can get onto the next mission is if you beat the Derridex, and it's extremely difficult. I can't remember the name of the game, but it was actually quite good. I have to say, it was really, really good.
Is this the kind of the I do not, I think I know the one you're talking about. It's not Bridge Commander. I think it's the one before that. Before because it's mostly ship battles, isn't it? The one I'm thinking of.
This one, no. This is ground stuff and all on it. This came out in the 90s. That's how old this is.
Right. Yeah, I've got the wrong idea.
This is really, really old. I know what one you're talking about. You're talking about Starfleet Command. Starfleet Command is quite good.
Yeah.
That's me. Sorry for another time, but we should get into Star Trek games as well. Which one is
100%, yeah. I'd love to do a playthrough with you, actually. That'd be nice.
Oh, a playthrough of Star Trek? Oh, you better believe it.
Start off the NES Star Trek. Go from the start.
I'm planning, because me and you have discussed this as well. I'm planning on doing some Twitch streaming. I have kind of tested the waters with that last year. But there's just two games that I want to play on it, which are Star Trek Armada 3, which is an unofficial game. It's not an actual game. It's a mod for Sins of Solar Empire Rebellion. And the scope of it is huge. It's an entire galaxy that you have to kind of conquer and whatnot. The other one is Fleet Ops, and that's probably one of my favorite games because it completely modifies Star Trek Armada 2, which is one of the better Star Trek games out there. It's a strategy game, but it upgrades it to fantastic graphics. It slows it down, and it makes it look like how it would actually look in films and the TV series. You've got one ship going against another ship, but you could have 20 ships going against one fleet going against another. They're not all firing on the one ship, so it's a very actually quite melee type of battle. Exactly. That's quite good. So yeah, I do love my games, and that's something that we'll look into as well. Definitely play along.
We might put a pin on that for later. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah. So in terms of the, I suppose the Romulan bird of prey that we see in this show here, where would you rank it? I'm thinking, again, call me crazy here, it's not the most like coziest looking ship, as tidy as it is. I think there's better Romulan ships out there. So I was thinking Lieutenant or Ensign.
I won't go as low as Ensign. I won't. No, I'll go with Lieutenant on this. Yeah, I'll go with Lieutenant on that. Yeah. Oh,
and that actually makes us our first ever Lieutenant entry as well. So we haven't had any ships just yet. So. Should be interesting to see how that goes.
You know what? There's not really that many.
There's very few.
Yeah.
Well,
they generally get their designs. Now listen, if we get an episode with a no bird class, straight to fucking Lieutenant.
Or the Pastor.
They're two absolute fucking pointless ships. Yes. Pointless. It's ridiculous how shitty they are. Like even the Miranda is better than them.
Oh, nailed it. Oh, I do like the Miranda boat.
Oh, the Miranda's nice because you see there's so many different variations.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, there's
Yeah.
just two different variations of a galaxy class.
Mm.
Sorry, technically three, because you've got a galaxy class, the galaxy class venture upgrade, and then you've got the Galaxy Dreadnought X or whatever you want to call it, the one with the three nacelles.
Yes.
So those are the only variations. Whereas there could be as many as 10 different variations of a Miranda.
Mm.
You know, so there's lots of different variations there. That's what I like about a lot of the ships in Star Trek. Obviously, there's two main ships that they kept all the way from the original films and series, all the way up to Voyager, and that was the Miranda and the Excelsior.
Yeah.
Obviously, they retired the Constitution class, but kept those two ships. So even during the Dominion War, you have the Dominion and the Klingon. The Dominion's not the Klingon. The Dominion, the Romulans, and
Yes.
the Cardassians, all having much newer ships. And then you've got Starfleet with a few newer ships, but mostly really old ships. Ships for
Refits,
70, 80-year-old ships. You're like, what the fuck is doing here, lads? You just need some new ships. That's what you need. But for nostalgia, you're like, it's great to see them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like it's like when you see like an Excelsior class getting ripped to shreds, going, it was 100 years old anyway. Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
Spring cleaning, lads. Let's spring cleaning.
But then you see a galaxy kept blown up. You're like,
but that was new-ish.
It's blasphemy. You can't be blowing up galaxy class ships like the USS Odyssey that was blown up in Deep Space Nine. You're like,
oh,
I remember seeing that episode going, they'll get away. Like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. They just blew up a fucking galaxy class. What the hell?
And there was more people on that ship than there was on the Enterprise as well.
Yeah, because it was more of a military style ship, even though, you know, they're not really military. Starfleet isn't really
not intended. The patrol. It was a patrol ship. Yeah, it's a patrol ship.
Such a nice
so yeah, there you go. I don't have anything for guest starring, unfortunately, this week. But I will try a few actors that were involved in the episode. The first one, and perhaps the biggest one, is Joanne Linville, who was the Romulan commander, who didn't get a name, unfortunately, in the script. But fun fact, by the way, if you remember the 6th season episode of The Next Generation, Face of the Enemy, where it's Deanna Troi who gets masqueraded as a Romulan.
Oh, I do like that episode.
Yes. Now, the fun fact was that Romulan commander was meant to return in that episode. And Joanne Linville was meant to play it, but she was unavailable. So it was a bit of a missed opportunity there to kind of give a hat tip to that original episode, because again, she would have been alive at this time. And yeah, again, she's the first ever female Romulan in Star Trek, which is very, very exciting. She's still alive. She's 93 years old now at the moment.
Wow.
And she's done quite a lot, as you can imagine. She was also in The Twilight Zone, again, starting off the sci-fi very early. I Spy, The Fugitive, she was in as well, Bonanza. She was also in Hawaii Five-0, Charlie's Angels, Mrs. Columbo, which is, again, Kate Mulgrew was involved in that, so another connection there. Quite a lot of stuff, really. As well, she also had the other kind of small roles in movies, like Scorpio she was in, Star is Born, Gabriel Lombard, so a wonderful career of movies and TV shows. But unfortunately, this is our only entry in Star Trek. Although, fun fact, she does actually, this is actually a very interesting one. So Linville was married to director Mark Rydell, and for a supporting role on the James Dean biopic. She came out of retirement. They had 2 children together, were both actors, Amy and Christopher Rydell. And Chris Rydell, funny enough, was in Star Trek Enterprise, would you believe? We'll probably get to him another time, but he wasn't a Romulan, unfortunately. But fun fact, in the fan series Star Trek Continues, which is a fan-made project, was spearheaded by Vic Mignogna and a couple of others. Basically her daughter, Amy Rydell, plays that Romulan commander in the finale of that show.
Oh.
So there you go.
I like that. That's very good. That's cool. Yeah, that's a bit of continuity for you there. I like that. Yeah.
And actually, I just at the scene there, she actually has died this year. I'm afraid she died in June.
Oh.
So unfortunately, obviously best wishes to her family there. But yeah, kind of like a nice little bit of continuity here, because again, if you actually do see Star Trek Continues, it's a very uncanny resemblance very uncanny resemblance. So there you go.
I have to say, I
Um,
do think a lot of the actors in that show do have an uncanny resemblance to a lot of the original cast. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Scotty's actual son playing
Son,
him?
yes,
He
yes, he
is,
is.
isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And now that to me, that is brilliant. I love
They
that.
got a couple of actors to reprise their roles at the time as well. If I'm not mistaken, the actor who played Apollo in the original series came back for the pilot
Oh,
of
wow.
that fan-made series as himself, as Apollo. So he played the same character. And it was just like, because I think it was the kind of the premise of the show, of the whole series, was basically doing follow-ups to prominent Star Trek episodes, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
So it's actually a very, very good premise, I have to say. The episodes are very, very well written, to their credits. So two other names I'll throw in here as well. Again, they are technically have been in Star Trek before, but they're very obscure, so I won't test you on them. Jack Donner was the Romulan commander who we see a lot of. He's the kind of guy at the news desk and with his headset and bibbidi bop and all that sort of shit.
John Newser, the voice Romulan.
John Newsreader, the voice from Jack Donner with Romulan News. And he appears a few times as a Vulcan priest in Star Trek Enterprise. I think it's the three-parter they did about the about the Vulcan terrorists. You know the
Oh, yes.
so he appears
That's
in Home
yeah.
and Kirshara. So he appears in those episodes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He obviously had he was very prominent in the 60s. He was in The Man from Uncle, Mission Impossible, and Kojak. So you'll see him in there.
Pretty big series there.
Very prominent series, yeah. He actually took a long time away from acting because he took ill in the 70s, retired from acting, and became a psychotherapist. And again, after some time in that, he came back to acting and appeared in the likes of Frasier, Charmed, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, amongst others. So
Frasier.
yeah, you might see his face there every now and then.
I'm gonna have to keep my eye open there because I love Frasier.
Yeah, there you go. One for the IMDb surf later on. And the last one then is Richard Compton, who plays another one of the Vulcans, Romulans. He is what's called a technical officer. So I think he's the guy that's in the cloaking room.
Yeah.
Or just cloak room, I guess would be actually more accurate, wouldn't it? Again, he's actually quite a young man. He's 69 at the moment. He died when he was 69. Apologies. He died in 2007. So he began his career as an actor. He appeared in 2 episodes as a character called Washburn, who essentially was like a generic kind of blue shirt, if you want to call it. But fun fact, he actually directed some episodes of The Next Generation, namely Haven was the one he directed.
Wow, okay.
He also the other episode he appears in is the Doomsday Machine, is where you'd elsewhere see him. But again, it's just a very background role. So in terms of his other roles in general, he did a lot of dabbling with mostly actor or director, let's say. So he directed the action film Macon County Line and its sequel, and he also directed several episodes of T.J. Hooker with Mr. William Shatner, of course, and did a couple of Hill Street Blues, L.A. Law, and The X-Files. So bit of a mix. So yeah, and he also directed Babylon 5, or at least a couple of episodes of Babylon 5. So he does stay in sci-fi a good bit. That's basically, unfortunately, he died in 2007. So again, another wonderful career from one of the various alumni from Star Trek. But Jerry, we do have some very important scores to give out. So this is our first ever original series Star Trek. So let's jump into it. As we always do, we start off with the plot. So I'd value your opinion about how you think this episode went. Were you intrigued by the plot?
Very, very intrigued by it because I genuinely couldn't pinpoint exactly what was going on. I knew there was something happening. I knew there was going to be some sort of swerve. You just knew that that this was an act by Captain Kirk. You knew he wasn't actually, defecting, or he wasn't going mad or anything like that. My original thought was that they needed to get onto the ship to get the Romulan commander because maybe she was a spy or whatnot, because we haven't seen that many times over the years in Star Trek. So to actually see that, no, they're actually there to steal the Romulan cloaking device, was a massive swerve for me, and I'm like, oh yeah, love this.
And
Obviously, it was
surprising,
before this.
like ballsy move from Starfleet as well.
Yes,
That's what I
really,
found so
really ballsy
surprising.
move because
Yeah.
obviously the Treaty of Algeron hadn't actually happened yet.
Yes.
So that's why they were like, let's steal the fucking cloaking device here. Let's
Mm.
let's get on the action here. The Klingons have, the Romulans have it. Why can't we have it? And then they stupidly signed the Treaty of Algeron that was to do with the Romulan Neutral Zone, and as Federation couldn't have cloaking devices. I'm like, you gobshites. I get
And to
honest,
the advantage of the enemy.
honest to God, I think it's probably one of the worst decisions Starfleet ever made.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I have an idea. You know, I've seen and read many different Star Trek books. Absolutely love them, but I've always had the idea of a Star Trek story of what was the admiral's name that was the commander of the Pegasus.
Shit. You've caught me on the hoof there. What is his name? I can picture him. I can't remember. It's not Hansen.
Great actor as well. He was in Lost.
He was, yes. In X-Files as well, actually.
Yes, that's right. Well, don't worry about his name anyway, but it was going to be basically he was going to form almost like an alliance between there was three disgraced admirals. So you've got maybe not three admirals, but two admirals anyway. It was the admiral of commander of Pegasus. Then you had the admiral that was on Earth when the changeling there was an changeling infiltrator in Deep Space Nine on Earth. There was that one. And then there was the commander of actually, why am I so terrible with names? Chief O'Brien's. Do you remember Chief O'Brien's Cardassian episode in Next Generation?
Yes.
And was he a captain or an admiral? I think he was a captain, wasn't he?
I thought he was a captain myself, but I could be wrong.
Well, the whole idea was that these three would come together and say that the Federation is kind of the Federation needs protecting from itself.
Yes.
And that they were together they were going to basically almost create a civil war within the Federation, and their ships would be equipped with the Pegasus style cloaking device that you wouldn't be able to detect. And they would have, they would do what needed to be done to protect the Federation, even if it meant destroying the Federation. And that was part of the idea of the story I had. I'm like, I actually really like this idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
This is something
I love that story. Yeah, I was gonna say it's a great collection of like, here's all the bad admirals all in one.
Yeah, but you say to yourself, if they're going to find allies, why not ally together? And the idea, I kind of came up with the idea of it when I haven't actually read the books yet, but there's this long series of Star Trek books that kind of starts with the Titan. So Star Trek Titan, and then after 4 or 5 books, and then it leads into things Star Trek Destiny, and then there's various other ones. So at some point, Andoria secedes from the Federation. Yeah, Andoria leaves the Federation because they don't like how it's basically being run. They leave, and then there is an alliance of other races against the Federation, and part of that alliance, I think, is the Orions, the Cardassians, and the Romulans. I think they're all in this massive alliance against the Federation. They're basically trying to create their own Federation to counter the Federation. And it's a long list of books that I really, really want to read. You look at like Ezri Dax is a captain. She's a commander of a fairly large ship. Kira is, I think, the Kai at the time.
Jesus.
There's lots going on. Like the Borg and all attack again, but they attack in force this time.
Okay.
And they have to get there's so much involved in it. I've only picked up from little things that I've read. I really want to read the whole thing, because it's so exciting. But none of it is canon. Not a single.
No, of course not. No, I was about to say. But like it's funny you should say, like, I can finally confirm that the name of the guy you're thinking of was Eric Pressman. Is the Pegasus
Pressman? Yes. What about Admiral on Earth?
I am trying to find that because like I said, I thought I'd be able to go down to a rabbit hole where he would give me all the other evil admirals, but I haven't got that far yet. So, but yeah, like I'm trying to remember his name, like because I keep saying here, I keep saying Maxwell, but it's not Maxwell. So, it's like it's quite frustrating.
Wasn't Maxwell a Captain Maxwell, wasn't it? That was on that's the Chief O'Brien episode, isn't
That's
it?
the Chief of Ryan episode, yes. So yeah, that's yeah, okay, yeah. I got the wrong evil captain. He was a captain. He wasn't an admiral. But yes, he was. I'm trying to remember now who the guy from Homefront episode is. It's just not coming to mind at the moment, I'm afraid. But yeah, so you would have had the dream team of Pressman Maxwell and what was his name?
Admiral Layton.
Layton, yes, Admiral Layton. That's what it is. So that is a hell of a dream team. That's a hell of a fucking dream team.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, they would. There was so many different things I had in my head. There was various different things. Where would they get chips? Think of in the next generation, how many times did they go to a place where the ships were in mothballs? There was just random ships there. I'm like, that's how they did it. They did that and they upgraded them. They didn't only have Federation weapons anymore. They had weapons that they'd gotten from the Ferengi, and Ferengi gave them disruptors and stuff like this. Yeah. But they would have small fleets going around, but it wouldn't be just Federation ships. They would have various other ships from wherever they could get them, but they would also steal some really top class Federation ships. But not only that, they would have other people that would flock to their banner. So you'd have people in Galaxies and Akiras that would be part of the fleet, and those ships would now have different weapons. They'd have cloaking devices, and they were going up against like the Enterprise, Voyager, the Defiant, that type of thing, and how it would work. Obviously, I never did it. I never wrote it, and if I see somebody releasing a book with this idea, I want half the fucking money.
Star Trek defectors.
Saying it now.
Watch it. Careful. Shit. Well, we copyrighted it. Shut up. The fuck. Star Trek defectors. Shut up. Right. So, while we give away all of our trade secrets, Jerry, what score will we give the plot of the Enterprise incident?
I think this is going to be a high one because I thought it was a really good episode. I have to say, there's some hammy bits in it, obviously, because it's the original series. There's going to be hammy bits, but I thought it was good. So I'm going to score this quite high. I'm going to go with an 8.
I was going to go 9 because I think this is one of the stronger plots of the original series.
I tell you what, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go on the 9.
Okay, right, interesting. Because again, like let's be fair, any of the original series episodes we may see, we're probably going to go top tier just by default. So, so don't be surprised if we sound like a little bit like rose tinted glasses here. Now we are actually like taking the top of the cream here for some of the other series. So, we're starting off strong with a strong plot. Now, setting wise, again, if we're just kind of discounting the, I suppose it's the first time seeing the Enterprise set, which obviously we do like, but we also see a lot of the Romulan sets, which are different. I think it's fair to say there is a conscious effort in making them different, despite like obviously the lack of kind of special effects and budgets that they have. So, I don't really have a major ranking for that in a sense. I do like that they try to make a difference. So I was thinking maybe a 7, just to kind of balance it out.
I'll go with a 7. I won't go low on this one because it's unfair to go low. I do like the fact that their holding cell was so different.
Yes.
And especially with how they were, activating and deactivating it. There was the two things that came across, and then the beams would turn off, and then that would come across. I was like, oh, that's a nice look. I like that. So yeah, I'll go with you on this. I'll go with 7 on this.
Deadly. And again, I think another strong point then is going to be writing. A DC Fontana episode, and a very good one at that as well.
Really good.
Very solid writing all around, because again, I do like how they slowly, like they have you completely unaware from until maybe the end of Act 2 what's actually going on. And even then, there is like a little like wrinkle every now and then about what Spock is actually doing. Is he actually playing along, or is he just genuinely really good at acting and lying? And as we learn, like he actually is following orders. He's doing exactly as he is told. So I think the writing is very strong in this episode, Jerry. What do you think?
It was really strong in this because you really didn't know what way it was going to go. From experience with Star Trek, I assumed that they were going over to get a defector or going over to get a spy that they had planted in with the Romulans. And I was completely shocked with how it was actually going. The fact that they were there to steal the Romulan cloaking device. I'm like, oh, that was because I've never watched any of the original series, so the idea of Starfleet stealing a cloaking device, that's just like what? That's crazy.
Sacrilege.
That is craziness. So to see that happen, I'm like, okay, that really threw a curveball at me, and I really, really like that. So I'm gonna go an 8 for the writing. I think it was really good.
Yeah, I was gonna go the same. Eight for that one. Yeah, strong writing, I have to say. Acting, on the other hand, quite mixed bag is what I would say. I think Spock and Linville herself, I think, do earn quite a good few points for their exchanges. I think they're very subtle and nuanced. I do like Scotty, just like, right, lads, you want to fight? I'm ready for a fight, lads.
The scowl for me from Scotty, just sitting in the chair going, he's like, the one arm over thing, like he's like this, like,
yeah, it's that stuff. Yeah,
really, fuck off. Like, he's only short of telling them to fuck off.
if that was in the vernacular in the 23rd century, I think he would have. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's a fair point. So again, Kirk obviously overacts a little bit here. I think obviously with the Romulans as well. Yeah, I know.
A little bit.
I was being generous there, to be fair. But like, I think with the Romulans, they still weren't quite sure what to do with them, because they obviously wanted to do similar to Vulcans, but like they didn't know how different they wanted to be. And I think having Linville playing the female like Romulan was the start of that. Was the fact that there was a very emotional base there, but they weren't necessarily irrational yet. They were devious, they were cunning, and all this sort of stuff, and that carries over to Next Generation. But they didn't really nail the character profile yet. So I'm going to go with a 5 overall. What would you think, Jerry?
I think that's fair. I think a 5, because the two people kind of saved the episode in terms of acting was Spock and the Romulan commander. The fact that Spock, like Leonard Nimoy, he was just fantastic. He really was. The only bit of emotion was like, I can't. Well, hold on. There you go. There you go. See, I can't do it. All the Botox on my forehead. The fact that he doesn't show any emotion, but yet you just see the acting is so good. Leonard Nimoy was just great. Like you look at Leonard Nimoy and then you look at Shatner. Like I don't hate Shatner the way other people hate Shatner, because I think he was, he's always going to be iconic. He's always going to be the captain of Star Trek. He's Captain Kirk. Like, when somebody says Star Trek, yeah, Captain Kirk, you don't hear them saying Captain Picard or Captain Janeway or Captain Sisko. You don't hear them say that. You hear them say Captain Kirk. That's what he's always going to be iconic, because of William Shatner. But you look at William Shatner and you say to yourself, there are other characters that you've played that it wasn't overacting and you were fucking fantastic in it. So why did you go so out there with Captain Kirk? You look at Denny Crane in Boston Legal.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be eccentric. He's supposed to have Alzheimer's. So he's supposed to be off the fucking wall, a bit loopy. And he does it so well.
Yeah.
Whereas as Captain Kirk, you're like, fuck. Like the only actual time I thought of Captain Kirk that he wasn't really overacting was Undiscovered Country. I thought Kirk was fantastic in Undiscovered Country.
Yeah, actually, you're right. I'm trying to think that now, because they actually, again, because that movie is so well written compared to some of the other movies. Now, Bradley can exclude that, Carl. I think that's a superb movie. But Undiscovered Country is like the perennially underrated movie in the anthology, because it is genuinely a story they have built from the ground up, from those movies, from everything else. And yeah, like everything Kirk is motivated by makes 100% sense, and the story makes 100% sense, and it's just a great way of completing all of their stories and wrapping them all up. So yeah, I do agree, John, that. Next up then is action on that one. So again, action, not much. No. And when it was there, quite poor.
Yeah, well, the very first bit of action that you see is Kirk attacking that officer. So it goes from Shatner to stunt double back to Shatner, and you're like, oh, that's just terrible. So this is this has to be low, though. This is the thing. This has to be low because there wasn't much of it. and
Yeah.
what was there was fucking terrible. So for me, it's going to be a 3.
3, I was thinking myself, like the only point I was going to give it was the actual little kerfuffle between Spock and Kirk, where they're clearly acting like Kirk is acting like he's pissed off. I might try to into like the scene category more, so I'll go with 3 on the action, definitely.
Yeah.
And now effects is another one. So again, we kind of tempering this because they have been kind of like updated since, but we do see a cloaking Enterprise. We do see Romulan ships floating around. And I suppose one effect I could throw in as well is the door, the force field door that Kirk flails over. So points will talk away from Kirk himself, but we might give to the actual like notion of a force field door like that, because it was a very good effect.
The effect of that door, the fact that the set itself was really good. They just, they didn't even try and make it look like a Federation brig. It was completely different. It was really, really well done. The effects as well, obviously, they've been upgraded from 1968, and I thought they were very good. The fact that the Enterprise cloaked, and I was like, that looks good. That actually really does look good. Even when you were seeing the various ships together, so the Enterprise was surrounded, and then just takes off, and it takes off like a bullet. You're like, whoa! No other ship moves as fast as that. Holy shit! But like really, really good. I thought the updated graphics, the HD graphics that they've done for the show, are really, really good. I'm not going to go low, but I'm not going to go high either. So I'm going to go around about 7.
I was going to go 6 myself. So we go 6.5.
We'll go 6.5. Yeah, we'll go 6.
Yeah, awesome. Now score. I think some of the musical things they used were really, really good. The problem was they used them too much. So I don't know. Again, this is the original series, so they wouldn't have had the access to constant fucking music suites that we would have in other shows. But I think the things that were there were good, and the actual kind of like some of the audio beds, especially between Spock and Linville, were very, very nice. Yep. But again, very overused. So I don't know if we're going to dock points away from that, or because they're so effective, they're used all the time. I don't know what your thoughts are.
The way I always say this is that music can make or break an episode, a show, a movie. If you had a different composer for, say, the music in Lord of the Rings, or a different composer for the Star Wars or anything like that, wasn't John Williams, it'd been completely different movies. Just completely different, because the music would have changed. The music would have changed the movie. So for me, it's very iconic Star Trek music, absolutely, but so overused in the episode, it was too much. So far too much for me. Obviously, it's not going to have those really nice big scores that you've got from the likes of Voyager and Deep Space Nine. Like the music in those, you can hear the similarities in music between Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and even more so than the likes of Next Generation. Next Generation kind of had its own music.
It stands out,
its own little, whereas Deep Space Nine and Voyager kind of made around about the same time. Obviously, had the same composers working on both, so it kind of sounded the same. But it was never really in your face. It was always very subtle. But then when it needed to be like boom, it boomed. Yeah. Whereas there was just far too much boom in this episode for me. So the score, even though it was good, I'm just gonna say there was just far too much. So I'm gonna go for 5.
5. I was gonna say 6. So will we agree to a 5.5?
5.5.
Very well. Very good. Scene then. So again, we're taking away what we think were the most prominent scenes from this, and I think again this episode has 1 or 2 really good ones. Again, I think like the first scene is a very hot start. The fact that like McCoy is doing the intro and Kirk is very clearly like acting like he is stressed out off his head. And then the couple of exchanges where they are starting to do the little conspiracy between Spock and Kirk, the little subterfuge and stuff like that. I think they were very, very good. And again, I want to leave a few points for our character here as well, because I think that's actually quite a strong category here as well. But scene-wise, I think there's 2-3 very good exchanges. Perhaps a bit of dead air in the middle in terms of like then starting to explain the plot, but that's fair enough. I think you have to do that at some point.
Yeah.
And it's a long episode as well, so I will kind of grant them that. So yeah, I'd say it's not massively high, but I think it's still complimentary, is what I would say. What would you think, Jerry?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there.
Hmm.
There was definitely a few good scenes. I'm trying to remember it all now, but um, ooh,
Definitely the start
try,
comes to mind, and the actual like when they're having the kind of the conference room, and like Kirk, right, basically it lets slip that like actually on several occasions it lets slip that Kirk actually made the order. So when McCoy freaks out, Scotty freaks out, and all this sort of stuff, and Kirk puts his foot down, and then later on when he's on the Romulan ship, when more or less the exact same thing plays out, but it's
yeah,
Spock doing it.
yeah.
Very
When
good
Spock
scene.
does it, yeah, that scene for me was very good. When
Yeah.
Spock kind of let it be known that he gave the order, and then Kirk attacks him.
Mm.
The look of rage in Kirk's eyes, and then the indifference in Spock's, and the kind of smile on the Romulan commander's face was like, "Oh, I have yous now." Like, haha, fuck yous,
Yeah, exactly.
I have my hooks in here. You know, where little did she know this was the plan all
It's all part
along,
of the
and I
plan.
thought it
Yeah.
was really, really good. There was a couple of good scenes in it. So, in terms of scenes, I'm going to give it a 7.
7, exactly what I had in mind myself.
Mhm.
So perfect. Next in character. So I have 3 pluses, 1 negative. Negative, I suppose, I'll get out of the way is perhaps the Romulans themselves. And just again, it's just a general comment. They just didn't know what they were doing with them just
No,
yet. Because again, I think this is only the 2nd or 3rd Romulan episode they ever did. So it was still very much a work in progress in that sense. But the top 3 had to have been Kirk, Spock, and Scotty. Scotty for me was man of the match. Like he only appears in 2 or 3 scenes, but my god, does he command the fucking scene? He really does. Like it just goes to show you that even with James Doohan obviously not getting the kind of like command roles every now and then, but almost like kind of like I think I mentioned like with Geordi sometimes, where like when Geordi or someone like Data's on charge, you know, it does kind of feel like, oh, this is actually kind of serious, and you see them flexing that command skill. And Scotty is very clearly a very, very good commander, along with being a very good engineer. And you can see that he has the temperament for it, he has the personality for it. You can imagine if like Scotty's around for something like the Dominion War or the Borg War, he would fucking lead a flotilla out to battle. Like he would do that. He's a warrior's heart.
yeah.
It comes across very, very clear. And so I think he comes across very strong here. I think Spock kind of playing spy works really well, and then Kirk like being very exaggerated and very like, you know, pointing to Rosie type of acting just so that the Romulans will pick up on it, I think is actually working in his favor here a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think it's a strong category for character. I'm thinking 8 to 9 myself.
Yeah, for me the standouts were definitely Scotty,
Spock.
Spock, and the overacting of Kirk can be entertaining at times.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go 9. I'm going to go 8.
Yeah, I'm happy with 8. And then finally, consequences. I think this is a very important episode.
Yes.
Truthfully, like okay, one, it's an episode kind of portraying Starfleet in a slightly different light. Not completely Paragon, not completely like, you know, above board and honorable. They're doing something a little bit devious here, a little bit Romulan, you could say. But there is no doubt a reason for it. They need to get a tactical advantage. They need to learn about the Romulans, and this is the best way of doing it, is by playing a little bit of like chicanery in a sense.
Yep.
So I do think in that sense it's a very good episode. But I think consequences wise, I think it speaks a lot to Spock in terms of like, because if you're looking at then the movies, it doesn't really come across like his feelings on Romulus. I know he mentions it a little bit in like say in some of the movies, but definitely in this episode you can absolutely see the seed is planted for reunification because of this partnership, if you like, this bond he kind of does develop with the Romulan commander. And again, we'll know, like I mentioned, the fan series Star Trek Continues or beforehand, and that is expanded on. You know, that's kind of like say like, well, we're going to be the bridge to that, and they actually do have a bit of a romance in there, you know. And it's not completely out of belief either. You know, it actually does make sense. So for me, I think this is where Spock has the idea of bringing the 2 tribes back together again. So I think it's an important episode from that front. And yeah, like I said, again, it also shows from a more abstract sense, it shows that Star Trek can do episodes with real life tensions in it. You know,
oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like because he have done a few like kind of takes on certain things. They've done like kind of like a submarine drama, like the episode I was talking about before. It wasn't Let's Be a Last Battlefield. I think it's a different episode title, but that was a different Romulan episode, but it was a take on a type of movie. Whereas then they started doing like kind of like social commentary and was very fucking ham-fisted. This wasn't. This was dead on the fucking money. This is topical. This was very, very recent. And I think it deserves points for that. So I'm gonna politic for a high score here, Jerry. What do you think?
It definitely does have consequences. The reunification is 100% the top of that list, and it has to be because obviously Spock finds out that the Romulans and the Vulcans are related. To me, though, the other highlight of it is the fact that the consequences of this episode is that the Federation went a bit out there, or sure to say, sorry, Starfleet went a bit out there with this mission to steal a Romulan cloaking device. So they really did put themselves out there because, you know, this could have meant serious consequences between the Romulans and the Federation. This could have literally caused a war between the Romulans
went wrong,
and the Federation. And the fact that it didn't was huge. If this didn't cause a war, this didn't even cause a little bit of an attack by the Romulans. It caused nothing. And I'm like,
it was more of a case of like the Romulans took it on the chin. It was like, yeah, you got us, fair enough.
Fair play, you beat us in this one. But, you know, you look at this and obviously Starfleet were willing to steal a Romulan cloaking device. Yet then, years later, they were willing to sign a peace treaty with the Romulans that they would never use the cloaking device.
Yes.
So you're like, there's your consequences right there. They were willing, very willing in the 2260s or wherever it was, to go out actually to risk the Federation flagship in an attempt to steal a Romulan cloaking device. So they had balls. And so you say to yourself, well, why did you lose your balls? Like,
very
why?
true, yeah.
You know, if it put it this way, you know, if the Federation had the technology of a cloaking device, the dominance of the Klingons and the Romulans would have been gone.
Yeah.
And they would have been able to use it to their own advantage. And then the fact that arguably their cloaking device was better than both the Klingons and the Romulans, you know, they would have had they would have had a tactical advantage. But that there's your consequence right there. It's that back then the Federation, the Starfleet had balls, and unfortunately they lost them somewhere along the way.
Pacifists, unfortunately, yeah. Went through a phase.
In terms of score, I'm going to go 8.
I will match your 8.
Okay.
So that leaves then the Enterprise incident on a 67 out of 100. So it's our first 60s entry, shockingly enough, but I think it's still quite good for an original series episode. So
I think so, yeah.
It doesn't obviously touch our leaders in terms of the Andorian incident and Skin of Evil. Neither does it touch the Battle or Conspiracy. But it does rank 5th. It's 5th of our episodes altogether. So it's in the bottom half, unfortunately, but it's top of the bottom half. So that's something at least, isn't it? Solid mid-table in that sense. And I think it does get us kind of in the mood then for what comes next to end this conspiracy subset. Because we've done Voyager, we've done Enterprise, we've done the original series, we've done Next Generation to death at this rate. We are not touching New Trek just yet. There's only one series left to do, Jerry. And you know which one it is.
But can you live with it?
I think I can live with it.
Oh, let's be honest. The episode that we're going to do next could very well win this entire thing. It really could, because I'm already thinking about this. The fact that we haven't watched it yet. I've watched it many times because it's one of my favorite Star Trek episodes, just in all of Trek.
Yeah,
this to me, this is for me 8s, 9s, and 10s. And I cannot see any part of this episode for me. I can't see any part of this episode going below an 8. I just can't. There's a lot of, you know, you look at the various categories that we have there. It's just, it literally blows everything else out of the water in terms of every single category.
Yeah.
And the fact as well that I'm not going to say who, but we're going to have a little bit of a special guest on the next episode. no, I don't want people thinking, "Oh, this is a big Star Trek actor." No, this is a big Star
Not
Trek
that big,
fan.
yeah.
He's a big Star Trek fan, and he does various different Twitch shows with regards to Star Trek and Star Trek Online and whatnot. We will have my good friend on our next episode as a special guest for this episode, because it is arguably,
Yeah.
because I can't just say it's the best episode ever. I can't, because people would argue over. It's arguably the best episode of Star Trek, and for me, there's everything we've watched so far, this is going to blow it out of the water. Absolutely, there is no mistake in my mind. There's just everything gets blown away. And I've said this before. For me, the best Trek is Deep Space Nine. And people can argue with me till the cows come home, until the sun rises. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise. Deep Space Nine is the best Star Trek that there is. And the fact that some of the best episodes of Star Trek is in Deep Space Nine as well. You've got the likes of The Way of the Warrior. You've got Sacrifice of Angels. You've got this, In the Pale Moonlight. And start to finish, scenes, actors, even a little bit of action. I think that's the only thing that may.
There could be weak points. I think every episode is going to have the chink in
point.
the armor. I think that's the difference. It's very hard to find a 100% perfect episode. I think there is one, because again, it's my own personal preference, but I'm not going to disclose it just yet, because I think we want to work into it. So I won't disclose that just yet. But I think In the Pale Moonlight.
Will you disclose which series?
I think it's in The Next Generation. So I'll leave that.
Would it be a two-parter?
It's not.
Ooh.
I'll leave that one to you, to your viewers at home, for you to guess. Because again, it is something that we can work towards in a future arc. So yes, indeed, the next episode we have is going to be our first Deep Space Nine entry, and let's be fair, this rate could be our only one, because we're going straight at the top 1% here, folks. We're going with In the Pale Moonlight. And like we said already ad nauseum since the last couple of weeks, and whatever score we get, we're just going to have to live with it, because we can
live with it.
So with that in mind, guys, thank you very much for watching this episode, and by all means, do all the YouTube stuff that we've been saying all the time. Like, share, and subscribe. Do all of that. Please do subscribe to Nerds of Rust for more of the same. We have tons of stuff on the channel. If you like your wrestling, if you like your gaming, if you like your comic books, if you like your TV shows, we have it all here for you in that sense. So by all means, please do subscribe to the channel. Jerry, so thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. And just to say, subscribe to the channel, because there's a lot more coming.
Oh, it is.
A lot more coming.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be hopefully a big year for us next year, post Christmas. So, especially for the man to know himself, because
I don't like saying this. I really don't. I hate saying it, but I think 2022 is our year.
One can only hope.
I really do.
One can only hope. But like I said, until then, we'll see you next time for our next trip beyond the stars here on the Best of All Worlds. As we always say at the sign of this podcast.
Bye.